there, everybody. This is Allan Feldman from the Laguna Woods Democratic Club. Thank you all for taking your time to watch us today. Usually when the Democratic Club has a program on Village TV, especially in an election year, especially this time of an election year, we're talking to a candidate, we're talking to a government official, we're doing something about the election, but not on this program. Excuse me. The name of this program is Black in Laguna Woods. And the idea for it started with simply conversations people inside Laguna Woods were having with each other. And because of what's going on in our country at this time, we just felt that some people would be interested in hearing these conversations. You know, the movement for racial, social, and economic justice and equality didn't start this summer. It started over 400 years ago. Maybe more than that, and certainly by the time Africans were first brought to this country as slaves. And certainly since the on-camera death of George Floyd, the killing of George Floyd, the movement has really gathered the attention of people not only here in this country, but all over the world. Watching the news every night whether you watch on the internet, on TV, read the newspaper, you can see that the Black Lives Matter movement many days gets as much, if not more, coverage than the pandemic and the presidential election. Now, most people know the reasons, the issues, and the grievances that have brought so many people out into the streets for such a long period of time. And we know how to discuss it. We know what the vocabulary is that people use to express these issues. But I think a thing that a lot of people don't know is how this point in time, what's going on here has affected other people. And by other, I mean people other than you and me. Especially, how does it affect the people who are, theoretically at least, most affected by it? What are their opinions? What do they think? How do they think we got here? And what do they think we need to do to move on? So that's what we're going to be discussing today. Now, we have with us three residents of Laguna Woods who are going to talk to us about their opinions, their outlook, their point of view, their experiences and observations about how it feels and what it means to be African American, how it feels and what it means to be Black in Laguna Woods. Now, we're going to get started, but before we do that, of course, it's a Zoom meeting, so everybody has to introduce themselves. So we're going to start going right down our line. We're going to start with Dr. Fran. Would you please just tell us who you are and tell us a little bit about yourself? We'll go from Fran to Allan Williams and then to Sandra.
Okay. Hello. I'm Dr. Fran Williams, as he said, Fran Marabou Williams. And it's important that I stick the Marabou in there because of my company, which had been Marabou Creative Concepts in Education. My background is in psychology, and I specialize in two areas. One is community clinical. The other is lifespan developmental psychology. I'm an advocate community servant. I've spent all of my adult life here in Orange County. And in doing so, and in serving as an advocate, I've served on boards and commissions to include the Human Relations Commission, the library system representative for Orange County, but more importantly to this subject as a diversity specialist for Orange County. And what that means is I've spent my life working with communities here in the county and communities all over the world. When it comes to being African American in Orange County, I like to present that when I first came here, a very young woman, and first came here following an ad at the University of Long Beach that was asking for a professor to work in Santa Ana College. And I asked the people, where was Santa Ana College and where was Orange County? And I got this big picture of the Birchers, what they did, the people who were so much involved in separating communities and separating communities ethnically, and the African American community being the most separated. So I came here with that vision in mind. But with that vision, I started meeting people from all over the place. But before I get into any further into my story, I'm going to relinquish my time right now.
Thank you.
Allan.
Thank you, Fran. See, my name is Allan Williams, originally from Kingston, New York. This December will be 4 years since I moved out here. I'm in the insurance. I've been in the insurance business for over like 25 years. Always had a connection to California as far as in sports. Even though I lived on the East Coast, I was a big San Francisco Giant fan, a UCLA fan with John Wooden. So I always felt that I had a connection to California, even though I didn't live here, as far as sports. And I always felt that California was always in the forefront of activism and social issues. So I always had a connection to California. And we were looking for a place to eventually retire. And we decided to come out here, and then we found Laguna Woods. And I love it here, but I'll talk about that later. So I'll let Sandra, be next.
Okay, so you have to unmute yourself there. There we
I'll
go.
mute myself.
Nice.
Okay. Yes, my name is Sandra Towns Ward. I moved here approximately 5 years ago from Texas. And I came here to help care for my mother and my sister, and they had lived here approximately 6 years prior. And I moved from Arlington, Texas to Laguna Woods Village. So it was quite a bit of a change for me. But anyway, I always enjoyed having previously visited here, enjoyed this area. So I looked forward to being here, and later on, I'll probably go into some other detail about it, but it appeared to be a really nice, comfortable place. I was retired from AT&T, and having lived all over the country, primarily in the Deep South. So I thought it would be a refreshing change for me. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And before we get involved really in the discussion, I just want to make sure that people understand everybody here, nobody here is representing any club in Laguna Woods, any organization, any political point of view, any political party, anything like that. Everybody here is speaking their own opinions, their own beliefs. Everybody here is literally talking for themselves. And I want to get started. I'm going to ask a question, and it's really a very Laguna Woods-centric question. I'm going to start with Al. I'm going to go around. Sandra and Dr. Fran will be next. But thinking about the first time you came to Laguna Woods, when you decided that this might be a place you wanted to relocate to. First step through those doors, whether it was a real estate agent's office or the community center, people there. My wonder is, did you feel that the treatment that you received, the way people treated you, the way they received you, was the same as anybody else who was walking through those doors would get? Or do you feel that there was some additional scrutiny placed upon you simply because of your race, the color of your skin? And Allan, I'll start with you on that first. I think that's an important question. I wonder.
Okay, no, see, my situation was a little different because we were doing a lot of the transaction from, we were doing a lot of transaction from New York. So it was kind of hard. We were just looking at Laguna Woods on the website, and it was hard to really judge, what the places looked like, because they always look bigger on their website than what they really were. And we didn't find it out until we came here. you know, we were in contact with you know, with some realtors here, but at first you know, we wasn't really serious. You know, we didn't want to make a move, so we were just you know, calling around different places, and so we kind of narrowed it down. We didn't want to go to Florida. We didn't want to go to the Carolinas, because Carolina weather, Virginia weather was pretty much the same as New York weather, you know, snow and cold. So we wanted to get away from that totally. So when we decided to make a definite choice, you know, we were you know, flying out here. We had relatives out here. So what we would do, we would actually, our relatives would come down to Laguna Woods and take pictures of the condos or the co-ops for us, and then send it back to us. So that wasn't really working that much. You actually have to come out and see for yourself. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
And you think people treated you well? You can't they treated you in a professional manner like you would expect.
yes,
Just
yeah.
wondered that.
And you know what, if you know how realtors,
Right.
they really don't pay attention to you until you sign the dot. You know what I mean? Till you
Right.
get approved and stuff like that. So, and we weren't really sure anyway. So it was going back and forth. So we didn't feel any negativity or anything. So once we decided to fly out here, we were flying out here on the weekends, you know, like 2 or 3 times a month to really solidify, you know, to actually look at some of the places, because that's what we had to do, basically come out here.
Yeah.
So we didn't feel that we were, people gave us a hard time or anything like that. You know, we came here, looked at the places, and we didn't feel any negativity as far as, you know, you know, we felt accepted. And like I said, you know, it's like anybody, you know, once you sign the dotted line, you have the down payment, then
Right.
you know, realtors feel a little more, you know, positive what you're going to do. So we didn't feel any negativity towards us.
Okay, thank you, Alan. And Sandra, let me ask you, because you came obviously from a little different way. Your family lived here. A lot of people in Laguna Woods have that same experience. So I'm guessing, and you can be brief. I know you. Sandra told me she had a sore throat, so try to keep her words down.
Yes.
But assuming that you liked this place right away when you saw it the first place, and you thought it was a welcoming community, I'm guessing that. But I'll let you speak for yourself.
Yes, like I said, my mother and my sister have lived here approximately 6 or 7 years prior to me coming here in 2015. And also my mother used to work out here. She was a caregiver, and she worked out here in the 70s and 80s when it was Leisure World. So I was, when I was visiting, I'd come out sometimes and visit where she worked. So I knew about the area and the community as well. One of the things she had mentioned to me that there weren't a lot of African Americans living there. So I said, you know, this was back in the 70s. So, but we, but we were kind of used to that. We grew up for a time period. My father was in a service, and he was stationed in Rhode Island. And so we were in an area too where we were the only African Americans. We were little kids, so you know, so that didn't really affect me as far as deciding to move here. When I decided to come here, I was looking at finding a leasing unit. So that's a different experience than buying here, because when you lease, you got to go call up and see different owners, and then they have to approve you before you.
Right.
So that was quite an experience.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Alan is saying, yeah. So you have to, you know, you have to pass the test, basically.
Yeah. Dr. Fran, let me ask. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Dr. Fran, how about yourself? Did you feel welcomed here when you got here from the first time, first people you met, with real estate agents or whatever?
I did. My first awareness of Leisure World, as it was at the time, was during my service as the county representative for the library system. And there were members of that committee, the library board, who lived here, the Schwartz, who lived here. And my first introduction here was for their dinner party that they had for members of the library board. So that was pretty welcoming. Later, much later, when I decided to sell my house, I was living in Lake Forest, and one of my neighbors was a realtor and suggested I move here to the village. And so she brought me over, but she and I were friends already from our Lake Forest neighborhood. And she brought me over, and this was actually 5.5 years ago, because that's how long I've lived here. And when she brought me over and took me around, I discovered that a lot of my colleagues had moved here. So I was very well received because so many of them already knew me. So, and the realtor, like I said, as a neighbor.
Yeah. It's good to know that we do have a community that's seemingly a welcoming community. I'd wondered about that. So let me go down to another subject here, and I want to talk a little bit about our security here in Laguna Woods. Now, we know in the demonstrations, the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, that the community of people of color, their relationship with the police is an immense issue. Now, we don't have an armed police force here, but we have a security force here, which travels around in their trucks and so forth, stopping, they have the right to stop people and so forth. So as members of the African American community, and Sandra, I'm going to start with you on this one. What do you feel the relationship is between the security force and the African American community here? Do you feel extra scrutinized here? Is there, what people told you, things that have happened and so forth? Just what do you think about that relationship? And Sandra, you go first, please.
Okay, I'd like to say that when my mother first moved here approximately 11 or 12 years ago, my first experience with the security was we were in the laundry room, and my mother and I, and the security came over to the laundry room to ask why were we there. And I told them, well, my mother was about 87, and I said, my mother's a resident here, and I'm here with her in the laundry room. So apparently, maybe one of the neighbors had called and reported us in the laundry room. But he was very polite, and showed my mother's I said, Mother, here's your ID card, and show it to him. Make sure we weren't there, illegally. So that was my first experience with security. But I don't feel that is an overall experience to judge it by. I think that was just an isolated case of the neighbors looking and seeing that there were, people there that they did not know. And my experience throughout the time period is once they get to know you, then they're okay. But if they don't know that, who you are and they don't feel that you belong, then they would be a little concerned.
Yes, I'd like to touch base on an incident I just had like a couple of weeks ago. We had found somebody's ID on the ground when we were walking, and we were just walking around in our neighborhood. And generally, I really don't have any problem with security because I don't speed, I don't give them the problem. So I'm not really a problematic person anyway. So we were walking, and then the security guy came behind us, and he said to us, he said, "Are you lost?" And I said, "No." I said, "I live here." But it's just the way it's just the way he said it. That was the first thing that he said. I'm not going to mention who he was. You know what I mean? I don't want to get anybody. Maybe it could be lack of training. You know what I mean? It could, but he was really a nice guy, and then we gave him the ID card, and you know, he recognized the address where he was. But just for him to say when he seen us, "Are you lost?" That's what kind of
Yeah.
ticked me off, you
Yeah.
know.
And I think another thing is I've been asked a lot by residents here, and particularly my neighbors. They came over. I when I first moved here, I made a point to go and introduce myself to my neighbors and to talk to them. You know, and a lot of them felt that first they saw me, they felt I could not be a resident here because I'm not old enough. Well,
Yeah.
some of them are well older than they are, you know. So, and the same thing with my mother. My mother was well in her 80s, but she did not look like and they were wondering, you know, you don't look like you're old enough to live here.
I've got that
So,
too, Sandra.
and it's you know.
Let me ask Dr. Fran to chime in
And
on
I
this.
think that's probably part of the problem.
Dr. Fran, what's your experience been like with security, or what have people told you their experience is like? I'm interested.
My experience with security, again, back to the people recognize me. At my gate, the people, they already knew me. So I had no experience there. But my family visits all the time. And my son is 6'4", very dark skinned, a big guy, former football player. And he has come in and out, never a problem. My grandkids, my granddaughter and her husband, they now joke about the different people who are at the gates and their different experiences with security, because they've come to know them because they visit so much.
Yeah.
So for my family and the group of us, we're all fine. But I have had neighbors to complain to me about when they've had people visit or they've had friends visit, they've had a hard time either in getting in, and the many different questions that they're asked that go beyond the name or the address to where it is that you're visiting. So there is a disparity there as I see it. I don't think it's a big issue, but I do sincerely believe that it's a racial issue. And I think it's one that could be solved with training.
That's right.
Nothing more. So.
Right, I agree.
Can I move this outside the gates here for this? I want to talk about people's relationship with the police in general, or your feelings about it, really, more than any maybe actual experience. And we hear people talking about people of color, all color, African Americans, all people, Latinos, when their children go out of the house, when their children are going out for something, they talk about how nervous they are and how they have quote detox with their children, especially their sons, on how to act when the police stop you and so that kind of thing. So I wonder, and Allan, let me start with you on this. I wonder if you believe that's how big an issue is that? How big an issue is that for people? I mean, and what's the feeling involved in that? It seems to me that that's we all worry about our kids when they go out, but this is like, I don't have to worry that they're going to drive foolishly and get in an accident. Beyond that, they could be doing everything right and get stopped, and God knows where it could lead. So how big a sword of Damocles, I guess, put it like that, do you feel that hangs over your head? And we'll go around, Allan, if you'll start, and then we'll go to Sandra and then Dr. Fran again.
Well, it's funny you brought that up. And that is one thing that I do, worry about. Is about my son. Luckily he's intelligent enough to know, what to do and what not to do. Around policemen, from what he sees and what's going on. So he's an intelligent kid, so that helps. But I often worry about him. I find myself telling him to shave his beard, you know, I mean, cut his hair, just for stereotypical situations with cops. But I do, if I worry about, I don't worry about myself too much now, but I do worry about my kids more than ever now with the with the temperature of the country and the cops. No, I'm not saying anything bad about the cops. We do need cops, but I do worry about him, during these times. Yes.
Yes. Sandra, how about yourself? What do you think of this?
I think same, in echoing for what Allan, I worry about my nephews and my brother as well, because I've seen cases, and this is going way back in the Deep South, where if you got pulled over by a policeman, you just made sure you had your hands on the steering wheel. And even for an African-American female as well, you don't give them any opportunities to feel that you're going to be hostile or aggressive. So you be very cautious, and that's my feelings on that.
Hey, Dr. Fran, how about you?
I think it's an issue to the extent that we as African Americans, a part of the teaching and training for our kids is how to respond to police, how to respond if you're stopped, cautious about being one, even in a group. And I can recall my husband really talking to my son about when he was growing up, he would usually be the only African American in the little cluster of friends doing something. And my husband would tell him, you need to be constantly aware, because if the police are going to stop, if they stop you, if they stop the group, you're standing out automatically. You're standing out because of your color, you're standing out because of your size. These are the kinds of things that you should do, you should not do to ensure your safety when you get back home. And that was when he was a kid. Today, we have, through an organization, which is the 100 Black Men of Orange County, a part of the training for their young men in a program called Passport to Manhood, is training on how to behave so that you remain safe, so that you don't have to experience a Floyd kind of situation. What you need to do to ensure your safety home once you've stepped out of that door. So it's very serious, it's very real, and it's across the nation. I don't think it's unique to the South or any other part of this country now.
No, I agree with you on this. It seems that you all feel like that's a kind of outside the gates when you're dealing with the police. That's an extra burden that is placed on people of color, African American people, that others of us don't have to deal with.
Absolutely.
We are actually out of time. We're out of time, so maybe we'll do this again. There's so much to cover. I thought we would get through like a stack like this. We just ended up like that, but that's okay. It's really interesting to listen to you talk. And I just want to thank you all very much for being here. I want to thank you all for sharing your experiences with us. And I'm serious, maybe we'll do it again, because we have a lot to talk about, a lot more to talk about that was left unsaid. And the only thing I want to say to people, just got like, I stopped my clock, but it's a few seconds left. When it comes to this, to me, the thing in this, we all have to listen to people. People are telling you their truth. What they're telling you is their essential truth. And because something didn't happen to you doesn't mean it doesn't happen. We have to respect each other's truth. and know that that's what we're talking about. We're not making stuff up. Nobody here was coming from Mars to colonize Laguna Woods. You know, we're all people here who will meet the financial obligations, willing to abide by the rules, just like everybody else. We have a bottom line. We're all the same right here in Laguna Woods. And I think that reflects somewhat in the way that you guys talked about the feelings about it. And again, I want to thank you all very much. And maybe we will do this again. I think there's a lot more ground we need to cover. And just to put on one more hat for a minute while I'm gone here, just remind we are the Laguna Woods Democratic Club, not partisan politics, but please remember to vote. People are going to be getting their ballots starting October the 5th. You can vote starting October the 5th. Don't wait till November 3rd to vote. Vote early, and please vote the entire ballot. Vote all the way down the ballot. Those offices at the bottom are important. They decide how much we pay for water, how much we pay for electricity, what books your kids read in school, what books they throw out of the library. It's really important. So please, everybody vote all the way down the ballot. And again, thank you all so much for being here. And I hope we can do this again, because there's a lot of other questions that I have for you, and I'm sure other people are interested in. Until we do it again, I will be seeing you all soon. Thank you so much, and bye-bye.